Hello everyone, today I'm going to be taking a look at Achtung Panzer, Warlord Games' new tabletop simulation for tank combat in World War II.
Alright folks, I have before me an early edition of Achtung Panzer from Warlord Games, the Blood and Steel starter set. So, if I flip this over, it's a big box. This contains everything you need to play out tank battle games at 1/56th scale, including the full rules, 2 Panthers, 2 Sherman 5s, a Sherman Firefly, and then some terrain, so you get some of the plastic farmhouses and all the dice, tokens and cards you will require. Popping the box open. So we start with a quick start for Blood and Steel. Also contains the instructions for how to build the plastic tanks and a bit of background about them as well. So, little 11-page quick start / build guide. Then we have our rulebook, shrink wrapped. We'll have a look at that in more detail in a moment. Then there is, it's actually a quick reference sheet built into the card to retain all of the gubbins and stuff in the bottom of the box. Also has 2 rulers printed on them, which is totally unnecessary, but a really nice touch. Nothing on the ends. So all you need is a pair of scissors and away you go. You've got a 10-inch ruler. Happy days. Then we have cards. So the British Tank Asset card deck, the German card deck, 1, 2, 3 bags of Smoke and Fire, a deck of cards, punchboard sub-assembly for the Panzer, our British cards, multiple bags containing multiple vehicles, and our farmhouse at the bottom. Right, I am going to take a moment, sort this all out, and come back and we'll go through it in a bit more detail. Alright, let's have a quick look at the plastics then. So these are Warlord's standard plastic kits. This, as you can see, is the Panther. Zimrit on the hull and turret, and also on the mantlet for the gun. 2 sprues, one with the upper and lower hull and tracks, and then the other has the gun and details. So relatively simple to put together, decent quality. There's lots of painting and unboxing tutorials of these about. John has done them in the past. So you get 2 of those. Then you get 4 of these Sherman sprues. The Sherman is a 3 sprue kit. So here we have hull and turret, or upper hull and turret I should say. Then we have lower hull tracks and track or road wheels. Again, nice clean cast. The third piece of the kit is some side armour and accessories, stowage, pintle mounted weapon, hedge cutter as well. So nice bits of plastic. The round farmhouse sprues. You get 2 of this sprue. So stone walls and corner pieces. And you also get 2 of this sprue, which contains floor, beams and part of the roof, along with some corner rubble sections. So again, a robust set of plastics that have been doing the Lord's own work now for some time. Those are plastics. What about the card components themselves? Okay, so card-wise, first off, we have our cards for the actual tanks. I suppose you could count them like dashboards. Has all the relevant information on here. Vehicle in question, what class it is, speed, ratings, armour and guns, ammo types, so AP, HE, special, and the special is also designated here with this red number in brackets. So your regular AP shot would have a penetration of 8, your special has a penetration of 11. However, the special is also limited. Any special ammunition, you have 1 load for the game. These are sort of almost a wax finish. If you're going to write on them with a overhead projector pen, you can do that. You've got your crew here. They have different ratings available. And as you can see, it's double-sided, so we have the Sherman 5 on the reverse. So you get 3 of these Sherman cards. You get 2 for the Panthers, which is A and D on the back. And you also get 2 aces. So for the Germans, you get Rudolf von Ribbentrop, and on the back you get the history of the man in question. And for the Allies, the British have got Sergeant George Dring with his Sherman 3, Aquila, and again his story on the reverse. With these cards and the tanks, there are also a sheet of tokens. So each one of these is essentially for a tank. And the way these work, if I pop some of them out, you give orders to your tank for a turn. So if I want this tank to go directly forward, I give him that order. As you can see, there's also a left and a right and a reverse. Halt is required for some vehicles' weapons. They can't fire it if they're on the move. You have to give them a halt order. Along with that, you see here, there is a stat line for the Tank Aces crew, but for your regular crew, there's not. Instead, you have them here. So lower is better. So your veterans are 2+, and then your complete dungers are 4+. So 50-50 before modifiers are added. Pop one of those out. You would set it up like that, so you can keep track of it. These can also change during the game. Generally, by going down. So if somebody sustains an injury, perhaps your gunner takes a blast to the face and ends up reduced down to 1 star for the rest of the game, becoming an ineffective gunner in the grand scheme of things. You also have the ammunition rack, and you've got your little ammos here. So they live in there depending on what you've got: smoke, special, what have you. And then if you load as part of your firing, your AP, it goes to there. After you've fired, that gets ejected back to the ammunition rack, and then you would load your new one. Let's say we went for the special this time. Because the special is a one-shot deal, whenever you come to reload in the following turn, that goes away, not back to your ammo rack. So there's a certain amount of tracking on these dashboards going on. Your tank ID up the top here uses this Enigma board-like alphabet. So you'd pop, say, A into there and then put the other A alongside your tank on the battlefield so you can track the relevant damage and weaponry on them. These also have things like your spotting, because just because you've got line of sight to something doesn't mean you necessarily see it through your very small vision slit. So you need to spot, which can be aided by your commander unbuttoning, sticking his head out the cupola and telling people where they should be shooting. So cards are nice 2mm stock. Good finish on them overall. I say overall because I have noticed, let me just shift these, with the actual dashboard pieces, I think whatever die they used, I don't know if that's going to show up, they all have a noticeable mark in the back where they must have been pressed from behind. So there's like a little triangular mark in there. You might be able to see it. It just looks like something has been hammered into the back of these. The die cuts on the front are fine, and with the exception of your buttoned and unbuttoned cupola, you're never going to be flipping these over anyway, and it's a little thing, but it's just a little disappointing that there's creases imprinted into the back of these pieces. But like I say, small thing, possibly not going to worry most people. Just something I noticed as I passed. Before we get into the card decks, we have our turn counter. Now this is a bit different. You have action phases in the game, but these are minutes, not real minutes, but game minutes. So these scenarios will tell you reinforcements will come in after 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or the game ends at 40 minutes. And at the end of relevant turn, starting with the attacker and then alternating, you roll a d6, and that's how many minutes have elapsed. But you have the choice to roll 2d6. So maybe you really want reserves on, or you really want the game to end because you're ahead, you might roll 2d6. Your opponent, on the other hand, may decide to try and draw the game out a bit longer, especially if it's some sort of rear guard action or things like that. So use these little clips to mark your time top and bottom and just slide them along as you play. And then this tells you what action phase you're on within the game itself. So that's an interesting way of doing things. Adding an actual ticking clock. Right, card decks then. So first off we have our event cards. So this is the big deck. Your number of events and your hand size are dependent on your game size. So the more tanks you have on the field, the bigger game you're playing, the more event cards you can have. You can also have one additional one if you've got a veteran or a tank ace leading. And then replenishing that hand, You can discard as many cards as you want, but you can only ever draw up to the star value of your top commander on table. So if you've got a commander with 3 stars, you can draw 3 cards in the replenishment phase. If you've got, somebody lacking, you may only find yourself with 2 or even 1 card. But these have a variety of things like reinforcements coming in, or fog of war to put a smoke marker down. Disasters averted at the last minute, because that was close. So play in reaction to your opponent playing an asset or event card, and it cancels it. So you get the idea. They are ways of modifying your game or imposing your game on your opponent, I suppose. Whenever they think they've finally managed to knock your tank out, it turns out you've got a charmed life. So, set of cards there, which will add a bit of fog and friction to your actual gameplay, make it less about the dice rolling, which is good. There's a set of ace skill cards. So we have 4 of these. Now, I'm not sure how they decide to best allocate these, whether it's a draft or not, or if there's specific ones for the aces. I haven't got through all of the book yet, but they do give you an idea. Tank commanders never suffer calamity as a result of a failed crew test. So ways of adjusting your tank in game as well, or before game setup, I suppose. Then we have our 2 decks, German and British. And these, apart from being sort of costed at various levels, again, that 1 to 3 star system, you can also see some of them have dates on them. So depending on what you're doing, if you're trying to recreate specific engagements or actions, you may find that some cards are not available to you. Some may be, but there's an airstrike. Always a constant source of fun in any game. All right, let's round things out then by having a look at the book itself. So, bigger than A4 in length, not width perhaps. It is roughly 108 pages long, finishing with a index, for which I'm forever grateful, and quick reference sheets, including all of your weapon data and tanks as well. So US, Soviet, British and German, all laid out in tables. There's even the various cards and markers in here again, if you just pick up the rules and wanted to, photocopy or whatever. We have additional asset cards for the other nations so that you can build your list in the same way for the Soviets and the US, or just write a full rota out. So that's really handy. I know they say they're available to photocopy for personal use. I don't know how many people still photocopy. Hopefully these will be available as download as well on the Warlord Games website. I haven't seen it yet. But getting into the game, it takes you through building your platoon, costs involved, and upgrades that you can get. The game works off standard D6, and in most cases the concepts are not going to be dissimilar to bolt action as far as sort of line of sights and covers, things like that go. The movement obviously is much different, but you just get in there and you can play through with a couple of tanks aside to learn the game. very quickly, I would imagine. I don't think you're going to see more than sort of 6 or 7 tanks per side on a 6x4. Theoretically you could, but I think at that stage you're probably going to be limited as to where you can move and what you can do. But if I skip on a little bit here and look for some of the fun things. So the real meat and potatoes of the game is the detail in tracking the crew, the commander supporting the other roles within the crew itself, or something happening. For example, one of your crew gets a sprained wrist, the tank lurches violently from the ear-shattering strike, control stick is violently wrenched from the driver's hand, he loses 1 star for the remainder of the battle. So you get that sort of thing happening. You may end up having the tracks thrown on your tank, or you may find your turret is jammed, things like that. And for a one-off game, those are nice, but the thing that really comes to the fore is if you play campaigns, and there is a campaign system in here towards the end, then the damage that you sustain has an impact on what happens with your tank the next time something goes wrong. So you can give your crew quirks, whether they happen to be drunks or lucky or, you know, a bit of a Sunday driver. After the battle, the crew outcome, this is it here. So depending on how your vehicle ends up, whether it's undamaged, took hits but still active, crippled and abandoned, knocked out, whatever it happens to be, you roll a d6, but then depending on how it came into the battle, so if you took some hits but you're still active and you're fresh, you're more likely to come out fresh. It's 50-50 whether the crew member is wounded or fatigued. However, if they've been constantly shoved in the front line and they're constantly getting hammered by the enemy or having to drag their ass out of a knocked out tank, so they come in fatigued already, then they're more likely to be killed or wounded and less likely to be fresh for the next game. So in a campaign situation, constantly forcing your heavy hitter to the fore will just mean you're more likely to lose those crew faster. You have to really protect the people inside it, which makes sense, and it's something you don't often see in certainly 28mm skirmish style war games, like the likes of Bold Action. You don't really have that worry about tracking the fatigue and morale of your men from being constantly sent on these missions. So yes, interesting. I like the campaign system an awful lot, which also allows you to upgrade tanks and tank aces as time goes on. Quickly have a look at one of the missions just to give you an idea of that. So here we see block clearing. A lot of stuff in the middle of the board, which is something you don't often see in a lot of scenarios. They just tell you where your deployment are set, and then maybe if there's a specific objective. This game really requires terrain. Fighting in a village, fighting in a forest, whatever happens to be. If you put tank on tank in a big green open field, whoever goes first is probably going to win, because they're just going to start knocking tanks out. And this, I think, is a prime example. You really flood the field, make them as narrative and as accurate or realistic as you can, because otherwise it's a massive gun sitting on a pillbox knocking you out from a mile away. You get the setup. The game duration. Game lasts 45 minutes. Remember, those are game minutes, not minutes. But reserves can come on in 2 stages, after 10 minutes and after 20 minutes. So you see how you get that staggered reserves coming in, and maybe you want to get to that reserve quickly, but then that could push you closer to the time petering out before your objective is resolved. And then at the end it gives you any special rules and the VP allocation as well. So yeah, fascinating little game. Interested to see how it plays when myself and John get it onto the tabletop.
All right, folks, so there you have it. Achtung Panzer, a lot going on. Interesting way that they've developed the game, where it is about the crew and the way they interact with everything, and also the fact that you've got those abilities to train and increase and your crew during a campaign, so you can have that veterancy. But also at the same time, if you just want to throw down some tanks and have at it, you can do that as well. So it's a lot of fun in that regards. I'd love to see a big game played out, like a convention game where everybody's got a tank and they're all going hell for leather. Because I think it may start to slow with a lot of tanks per side, unless they're only being dealt with by one person per tank. But you could have a massive table, like 18-20 feet long, and then do one of the big tank clashes, and it'd be great to see how people compensate for driver injuries, or a gunner or commander that gets knocked out, or all those little things that you can track in this game that you wouldn't normally look at in a standard war game. But let me know what you think below, and whether you'll be picking up Achtung Panzer. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe, and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.